Hello and welcome back to the MMA India show. Today we have with us Gurdarshan Singh Mangat, aka Saint Lion, who is one of the premier MMA athletes of Indian descent and a very proud Punjabi, and we are very proud of what he has achieved up till now as well, and what all he is capable of achieving. He's going to be fighting for a bantamweight title at one of the major global fight promotions, which is Brave, on November 17th in Bahrain, and he's going to be facing Stephen Sniper Loman, and that's a fight to look forward to. We will also be speaking to him about the recent tragedy which happened in Las Vegas, and also about Canadian politics and other politics as well. A very deep and insightful chat with Gurdarshan Singh Mangat. Here it is. Okay, so welcome Gurdarshan Gary Mangat, Saint Lion.
How you doing?
Great, man. It's great to have you again back on the show. And it's been a very tough week, of course, for the world in general, and a tough month. So we're going to get to a lot of other things. We've got a lot of things to talk about, because I think sometimes sports, politics and life do intersect. Just like we saw a couple of days ago in Spain with the whole Catalan referendum, sports did get involved when Barcelona decided to play out their whole match that day in front of an empty stadium. So there are points of times, even though we say a lot of times that sports and politics shouldn't intersect, and to a large degree I agree, but there are some times when you cannot but help that, and they do. So coming first, of course, straight down to your fight, your title fight, bantamweight title fight has been announced with Stephen Sniper Loman, correct? Who's from the Philippines, from Team Lake, and we don't know much about him. His claim to fame, of course, is that he has defeated somebody who has been trained by Conor's coach. So who was the guy that he defeated?
Franz Malambo.
Okay, so great, but he has fought in Brave before, and as we know, the Filipino fighters are always very, very, very tough competitors, and I think it is going to be a title-worthy fight, and it's something I think that you will have to bring your A game for and be really ready for. So this happens on November 17th, of course, in Isa town in Bahrain, and of course it is being also promoted as the first time somebody of Indian descent is getting a title shot in a global promotion. So do you want to give us your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, my thoughts on the fight is that he's a worthy competitor. He's he beat somebody from SVG, has a good record. He has strong base, strong wrestling, strong stand-up. But as far as it comes to comparing against me, he doesn't stand on my level. This is gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be historic. Becoming the first Punjabi to be able to raise an international MMA belt to the world and truly let them know that we've arrived, and let the world see who we truly are. I take great honor in this. Like, you gotta remember that I came from an accounting background, and here I am in these positions. These positions were not just given to me, these were earned. These were earned with hard-ass work every single day, with the mindset that I could hold these kind of, to be able to hold these spots. And so that's kind of where I'm at, and he's just another person in my way. My first fight with Brave was with Team Lacase, and he was his coach. So we actually, on our end, with my MMA team, we have a 2-0 record against his team. My coaches beat his coach, I beat their student, and now I'm facing Stephen, who was also from there. And like I said, after my post-fight, after the very first fight, I'll take out their whole team. I have no problem.
I think the guy you fought, I think the guy you fought from their team was Troy Pontiac, right? Yeah. Okay. Great. So, sorry.
Yeah, so the funny thing is, before this fight was announced, I was at a Mayweather McGregor fight in Vegas, and Franz was there, and we actually spoke about Stephen. I'm like, listen, I might be fighting this guy. Like, I kind of had like this kind of hint. Yeah, we spoke about it. So I met Franz in person in Vegas at Conor's after party. We spoke a little bit, and the next thing you know, the next month, the fight's been finalized. So it's kind of, I visualized he would be the next guy, and the visualization came through, and here we are.
Yeah, and you did speak to us right after the Mayweather-McGregor fight, and you did let us know something's going to be announced soon.
Yeah.
So we remember that. So now, you know, there has been, though India takes great pride in its sons, so to speak, even if they do live across the world, because India has a huge population across the world. And the way I personally see it is, we are all Indians first. You know, you just cannot take the desi out of anyone. You know, I grew up in Canada as well, you know, in Mississauga from the age of 3 to 13. But of course, you know, here I am, and we are all first and foremost Indians, though of course our loyalty lies to the countries we live and reside in, and where we, you know, make our bread and butter. But having said that, there is something very desi about being desi, you know, and there's something prideful. But there has been some criticism, I would speak, because when Arjun Bhullard was on the MMA Hour, I don't know if it happened there or somewhere else, where I read there was some criticism of appropriating, I don't know what the exact terminology was, but of using the whole, you know, that I'm Indian and I represent a billion Indians. You know, what do you say about that kind of criticism?
For me, I understand I represent India, I represent Indians. At the end of the day, I represent Punjabi. Being Punjabi is a way of life. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that I'm raised under. It's a lifestyle that I carry. Being Punjabi is a cultural thing. It's a thing I take great pride in. It's a thing that gets me up in the morning. It's a thing that works harder. It's the thing that makes me want to write history. So that's kind of what I have to say about that. I know that in my last fight, that was a big storyline with the duel, was the fact that I wasn't from India and I was representing. At the end of the day, I'm a Punjabi representing all. That at the end of the day. So I'm not going to be really saying that I'm an Indian, because it's true. I'm not from India. My parents are. They're first generation here in Canada. I was raised under the Punjabi way of life. And being Punjabi, there's Hindu Punjabi, there's Punjabi Muslims, there's Punjabi Sikh. So I think we cover all of that. I have friends that are Muslim, I have friends, my wife is Hindu, and so like we're all Punjabi at the end of the day. So yes, I represent Indians around the world. I don't forget that part. That's kind of my heritage. That's how I was raised, and that's truly what it is at the end of the day for me.
And we would like to offer our condolences. I think you lost your Nani just a couple of days back.
So it was a sudden thing, and we just had a barbecue with her 5 hours before. It was nothing that was expected. She was healthy, she was walking around, she was doing the dishes, she was feeding us, and then 5 hours later she passed away. It was all kind of a shock, and I know Brave wanted to announce the fight, and I give respect to Brave for holding off the announcement, because the fight was kind of drawn up the same day that we had found her. She died in the living room, and we found her, and then this all was kind of happening. I'm like, guys, I don't care about this fight right now. I don't care about MMA. I just kind of disconnected. It was weird. They kind of put everything in light, that family over everything, and I just had to be there for them. And then everybody was kind of like, do you want to take the fight? Do you just like, I kind of went into this mode where I just want to be around my family so much right now. I don't want to miss a moment. Where being an MMA fighter, I've sacrificed a lot of time for my family. I've sacrificed a lot of years for my family. I'm very close with my family, but that doesn't mean I sit next to them every day. I'm on the go all the time. I've moved to the other side of Canada before for 3 years, and But for me, family is everything at the end of the day. My grandma was like our second mother. She raised 3 generations kids. And the thing is, the younger the kid, the closer they were. So it wasn't even my mom who was the closest to her mother. It was actually my nephews, us, who she raised. And yeah, it's we're still kind of dealing with it. My grandpa barely speaks right now. It's definitely one of those things that, honestly, the motivation for me this fight is to kind of bring winning this belt, come give it to my grandpa, put it on his shoulders. And that's kind of what visualizing that I'm going through, because they were just showing me pictures the other day of them watching my India fight, and they're both huddled around the phone, and they're watching the stream. And she never missed a fight, and she was always there. She didn't know how to explain it to her friends, but she knew exactly what her grandson did. And yeah, we were just talking about my next fight the last time I saw her, and yeah, it's definitely one of those things that I'll be carrying her spirit into the fight. I'll be carrying her spirit through this training camp. I speak to her every day, and that's kind of what's pushing me right now. I'm trying to use it as strength somehow.
Now, I just want to say something here to the audience who is watching and who will be watching, is that I think there's a big sometimes misconception amongst us, amongst the Indians in India, that life is somehow very much rosier abroad when you go. I don't think people realize how hard people work, especially Indians, to make the life that they do abroad. I would say they work very, very hard, if not hard as or harder than anybody else, even in our country. The only thing that is different is the return on that hard work is much more fair abroad than it is here. But the hard work, nevertheless, if you're a middle class person, sometimes you might have it easier, or even a little money. You've got your driver, you've got your maids, but you don't have all of that abroad. You're doing everything yourself. You're packing your bags, you're cooking, you're going out doing a million different things, and life is hard, and the Indians do stick to each other, and they do stick to their cultural values, which is great, because like I said, it's not like you go abroad and you suddenly become Angrez. The Indians who move abroad always retain that Indianness and Punjabiness, which is at the core. So I think that thing of you're abroad, you're not really Indian, I think should die down. We are all Indians, and we will never lose that, come what may. So, and especially that closeness with our grandparents and our rishtedars, that sense of family, like you just so correctly spoke about right now, is one thing that really defines us.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I've never hidden the fact that my family is a middle class family, and I've always wanted to get into a different place in life and stuff. Like my grandma, my grandpa, my uncles, everybody, they were berry pickers on the farms. And I remember my grandma used to come home, her hands were purple because of the berries and stuff like that, and we never understood why her hands were rock hard from just picking berries in the sun all day. They built themselves up from the ground up. We are not a second, third generation, like I'm talking about my family, second, third generation. We're first generation still. I only know these values from home, and I'm kind of the first generation on this soil. But they don't let us forget it, and I sit back and I remember those times, and that's what I've been thinking about. I remember her hands used to be purple, and she used to pick berries, and she be this old woman that was working and never gave up, and then come home and make food for everybody. But we were a good, close family. Those values were taught since they were born, and they were brought into us, and that's how we are who we are.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to...
Can you give me 1 second? I'm just going to grab the charger for this laptop. I don't want to...
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. We're holding on. don't finish it, just keep it around. See, it's trying to connect, means the internet will keep connecting unless it shows. So just keep it like that, because it's trying to reconnect. It will reconnect anytime then. Pichli baar is fine, because then you say post and then start it again. But right now it's live. It'll start. You ready, bro? Yeah. Okay, so now, of course, you've been with this promotion for some time now, and you know now they've given you a title shot, so it's all working well for you. Are you looking slightly ahead of the title shot, or are you only focused right now on the title fight with Stephen?
Right now I'm focused on the title fight. This is my last fight with Brave before we renegotiate another contract, if I'm going to be with them or what's going to happen. I personally enjoy the promotion. I like the people behind it. Yeah, so this is my last fight with them, and then obviously I'll have the belt, and then we'll see what our renegotiation look like. And hopefully they'll look good. And
yeah, hopefully with a belt in hand, they should look much better. Yeah.
Exactly. When I run the 135 division, I'm going to take this belt, and I think I'm going to go down to 125 and take that belt too. I'll be Brave's two-weight class champ. Like, no, I've been wanting to fight at 125 since the first day I signed with these guys. It just hasn't worked out. I fought at 145 before I even fought at the weight classes I wanted to. I fought at two weight classes up before I got to fight, and now I'm getting a title shot at this one. So I'm just kind of getting adjusted to staying around this area. But yeah, this is my last fight with Brave. I did 3 fights in a year with them. It's been a crazy road. It's really cool how far they've come, and it's kind of cool how far I've come along with them, and it's been fun. And now when I get this belt, I got the belt over me with all my people watching, with everybody cheering on from around the world. It's going to be historic, man. It's going to be good. It's like one thing people that need to understand is there's other big promotions out in the world now. It's not just the UFC. It's not just Bellator. Well, Bellator is one of the ones that is just as good as the UFC. And then there's ONE FC, where my teammate has been the undisputed champ of. And so there is a lot of options. I understand people in North America and stuff, and even a lot of people around the world only understand the UFC. But there's a lot of these promotions that have just the same level of guys that are competing, that get a different stage. So for me, it comes down to, obviously historically, I would love to go to the UFC, but at the same time, I really like what's going on with this promotion. Let's see what happens after. But right now I'm focused on putting Stephen Loman away, and that's really our whole team's focus and everyone's focus right now.
Great. Now, moving away from this fight for a little while, yesterday, of course, something happened in Vegas, of course, a terrorist incident which has really shaken up everybody. And of course, it is the headquarters of the UFC as well, and the center of the MMA world in a way, and the boxing world and combat sports, and it is, there is a lot of course, a discussion again on America's gun laws, and it is something which affects everybody, because all of us go to or want to go to, travel to. We all have relatives. My sister lives in America, with her family and everything, and we have so many friends. So it is something which affects us all, whatever happens in America, and especially the gun laws, which a lot of people, the whole discussion about the gun laws comes into play again, because this guy was sitting there in a hotel room with 10 guns, and he had about 40-50 of them in his house. Now if you look at a country like India as well, or so many of the other countries which have much stricter gun laws, you don't have that happening, because the control over guns is so hard. So you'll have, gangsters maybe using sometimes desi kattes or something, which might backfire on them, because they cannot have access, to a semi-automatic weapon. But, the whole thing is, guns are so easy. And of course, it is that whole thing that it's enshrined in the Constitution, the right to arm yourselves. But that was a different time, and even Obama tried to put in some checks as far as mental health goes, giving guns, to people and checking the mental health, which I think Mr. Trump has removed now. So there is, and of course the gun lobby is very strong. So it doesn't, every time something happens, the same kind of discussion seems to go on, where one side says, of course, we need stronger gun laws. The gun lobby says, no, we need more guns. And ironically, the shares of all the gun companies go up.
Yeah, it's like, well, first of all, condolences to Vegas. About me and a teammate, actually 6 other guys were supposed to move next week for a month. We were going to do our entire training camp out there. I had one of my teammates who was fighting on the UFC Australia card at the same time, so we're getting ready to pack up and head out there, but he got an injury on his neck, so he's kind of pulled out of his fight, and that camp now we're just trying to figure out where the training camp is going to happen. But we were headed over there. But yeah, it's just like, first of all, right now, like, I've been kind of thinking about this all day. I've been watching a lot of stuff on it. They're categorizing it as a mass shooting because once you put the label terrorism on it, now you got to go into the discussion of discussing gun laws and stuff like that, and then you got to bring the NRA into it because it was domestic terrorism. It was a guy. It was like, even if we're talking about the color of his skin, it was a retired white man who was well off. He was a multi-millionaire who was well known in the casinos to be a gambler who gambled a lot of money. Most of his rooms were comped. And whenever he went to Vegas or whenever he stayed on the strips, he never had to pay for a room. So the staff and a lot of the casinos knew him. But at the end of the day, we keep calling this a mass shooting. Why? I can say a lot of different things, right? You can bring color, religion, you can bring a lot of dialogue of that into it. At the end of the day, this was a terrorist act. It was a terrorist act. There's no denying it. It was the biggest mass shooting. It was the biggest mass killing since September 11th on U.S. soil. So if that was a terrorist attack, this makes it no different.
I agree.
This guy could get guns up. One of the things that I was actually reading about today is that semi-automatic weapon. So he used a fully, I think I'm using the right term, a fully automatic weapon. That would be, So a fully automatic, a semi-automatic is legal in the States. A fully automatic is illegal. But there's a $50 kit that you can get that is legal from anywhere where you can change that weapon into a fully automatic and not have to register it. There's also, they're not even going to be able to track this weapon back because a lot of these guns are, they're not registered. So when they were getting semi-automatic weapons up until 1986, you didn't have to register them. So since it was a fully automatic weapon, it didn't have to be registered in 1986. After 1986, it was illegal. But people don't know if he got the kit and turned it into a fully automatic. If that was the case, then you got to track it back to the semi-automatics, which is apparently they don't even have a computer database for this. They only have paper files, which you got to think about. It's in West Virginia or something, and you got to track back over 3 million guns that have been registered through paper, which could take months, could take a year. And so it's just a whole lot. There's just these loopholes. Like I just told you a loophole on how to turn a semi-automatic into a fully automatic and get off twice the amount of rounds. And all you need is a kit that's legal that you can probably buy from a Walmart in the States. Where here in Canada and India and stuff, there's a full process. There's every firearm is registered in Canada. It's very strong like that. And this guy was known to have a lot of guns, but he was never known to be really dangerous with them or anything like that. So there's a lot of mystery behind that and what's going to take place on it. But right now, it's just one of my teammates was there at the concert yesterday. He left 20 minutes before this all happened. There was a guy from Vancouver who got killed because Vegas is about an hour and a half on a plane from me. And a lot of people go for big concerts here, and apparently this was a really big country music festival that people went for. So there was people from Vancouver that went down. One of the guys was, I think he was 24 years old from around here, and he got killed. But one of my teammates was there, and he happened to miss it by 20 minutes. And he went back to his hotel, and then everything kind of broke open. I've been checking in on all my Vegas friends and everybody that's out there and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people that I'm coming across that are connected to somebody that did get shot. As far as the people that I know personally, there's not really anybody, but I know a lot of people that know somebody that they were close to. So it's just a big tragedy today, and it comes down to what they're going to do about the gun laws, and honestly, I don't think they're going to do shit about it, because they won't even label it what it's supposed to be labeled, and that's because they're trying to keep the dialogue a different way and trying to keep it a different way. The crazy thing is, if you saw all the NRA people who tweeted condolences today, and yet they're the ones who are the ones that are okay with, that are lobbying to keep the laws the way they are and stuff, but they're the ones sending condolences. It's a pretty hypocritical thing. And that's just like watching it from the Canadian border side and kind of just watching this all go down. We thought the whole presidency over there was a joke enough, but now seeing these things and what's coming of it and stuff, it's scary, because you know there are people like just you and me, and just kind of seeing the whole thing go, and hopefully Vegas tourism and everything doesn't suffer. I know the UFC is still going ahead with their card. I know Dana White tweeted out that he'd be donating $1 million to the families and stuff. So I think they're trying to not let it affect too much. But as far as I know the airport was still shut down today for a bit. The south side of the strip, which is where Mandalay Bay to like Planet Hollywood was kind of, but when you go past Planet Hollywood, it seemed like everything was kind of normal and in business and stuff. So the bodies were still being taken off today. This afternoon when I was listening to it, actually on the way back from training.
Hey, sorry. So we had our internet problems as usual, you know. So anyway, we switched to another provider. You know, this is why I used the term terrorism, and I didn't say mass shooting. I said terrorism. I think sometimes they are too focused, especially now, on the enemy without rather than within. You know, there are a lot of people of unsound mental health who unfortunately have access to guns, as what happened now. And I think the danger that happens after every shooting is that it starts to get romanticized, as if people have been through something together and then let's stay strong, we can overcome it and all of this. That, according to me, you know, but if I'm brutal about it, no. You know, we will not just, it's not a matter of staying strong and staying true, you know, and of course, you know, we do care for the victims. The reason, and the best thing to do about the victims is, rather than stay strong, is make sure it doesn't happen again.
Even Donald Trump today, like just hearing him say what he had to say to the country, it just sounded so, I don't know. It is like when Obama used to say, you open it. When Donald said it today, he's like, you must remember that love is what united us all. I'm like, that's your biggest problem in your country right now, is that you guys are totally separated in every possible way.
Yeah.
It's like, it's, yeah.
And love is not going to get you, you know, or it will make you overcome this. Stronger gun laws are going to make you overcome this, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyway, all we can hope from outside is that someone sees sense. Though, of course, because the gun lobby is so strong, it seems very hard for them, because someone like Obama was not able to overcome the gun lobby, even though he did try, and he put in much stronger checks at least, and he was very vocal about it, you know, which is great. But now, moving on to something which is happening in Canada itself, is right now we found we have a Sikh, a Punjabi Sikh, Jagmeet Singh, who's been elected as the head of the NDA, right? The party is called the NDA?
The NDP.
Sorry, okay. So, and it's the first time, you know, a non-white person, and the interesting thing is, the reason I bring it up also is because he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner as well.
Yeah,
so,
he is, when I spoke to him, that's kind of how we related on things, is that he's like, oh, I used to do MMA also. I've met him a few times over like the past 5-6 years. Yeah, he's an amazing person, very intellectual person. And it's kind of crazy. It's like, borders divide us. You look at the States, I don't think this would ever happen in the States for a while. Obama was already kind of a rare case, and people were like, oh my God, like, you know, like that's happened. And now you kind of jump the border, and you got a Sikh, that's like urban Sikh, who's now possibly the new hope for Canada. And it's not like we need new hope, because I feel like we're pretty united over here. Things are a lot different here than the States. but he's definitely somebody that broke a lot of barriers, and with a party that's usually not known to kind of not be that type. That they call, like, new NDP is almost what the Liberals used to be. So it's very interesting. It was a huge feat for us. We're all waiting for the results to come in yesterday. And when they did, I think it was a celebration all across Canada that this could be our next prime minister. Man, it's pretty crazy it's pretty crazy to think about. We got Justin Trudeau, who's been good, and now the next one could be a Sikh, and that's historic. We got our defense minister who's a Sikh.
Yeah.
And the full cabinet. We told him to be coming. We told him. Russell Peters said this years ago. He said, "We're coming. Eventually, we're going to get you. Eventually, we're going to get there."
Now, he came in the news a couple of weeks back. I think it was when there was a lady who disrupted one of his meetings, and she thought he was Muslim, and she said, you're trying to bring Sharia law into the country and all of that. And the interesting thing was that, and I read about this afterwards also, he never said, I'm not a Muslim. And he said, the way to combat that kind of talk is not by saying, "Main Musliman nahi hu, main to sardar hu bhai." That's not the way to do it, because you shouldn't be saying prejudiced against anybody, so I thought the way he handled that whole situation was really great as well, and it showed that he's got such a level head on his shoulders.
Yeah, he handled it in a way which I feel like is rare. Like, I think if any of us put ourselves in that spot, would we have had that kind of patience that he displayed? And I think it showed a lot in exactly him not kind of tossing judgment to a different religion, still kind of just like, just letting it be, by handling it. And that's what it is, right? Anger over a patient mind always makes that anger mind look stupid, and that's exactly, it was a good way to put it. It was a good display of it, and I think he gained a lot of respect, and it definitely was a viral video here. I'm sure it was a viral video in India and all over the spot, but here is definitely something to be proud of. I was definitely proud to watch it, and it was really cool to see.
Now,
and it shows you what mindset he has about everything, and I truly attribute that, I believe, to martial arts. I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of those things that teaches you humbleness, to kind of hear things out, to kind of like stay humble but be strong. You don't need to enforce yourself on somebody, and I think I truly believe that these principles were something you learned through mixed martial arts that he kind of applied right there in front of the whole world.
Yeah. Now, for India, though, it's a kind of I would call it a testy situation, because the papers today were all talking about, and he was on the front page of the papers, but they were all talking about how he was denied a visa by the government which was in place in 2013. I'm not. I don't know how the present government might change their disposition towards him, because it's not involved in the same way as the last government. Now, this is where it kind of gets, I would say, sticky, is because there is a feeling, I think, amongst a lot of Sikhs, and I think people like Jagmeet Singh, that people who were involved in the 1984 riots were never brought to justice. Now, I just want to ask you, as a Canadian Sikh, is that the feeling, and is that why a lot of people are rallying around somebody like a Jagmeet Singh?
I definitely believe so. I definitely believe that is a huge dialogue in it. The fact that he has voiced it in our parliament here and brought it up numerous occasions, I believe that's why the Indian government and such won't. Okay, Harjeet Sajjan is also another one. Yeah. It's another situation there. I think these guys are using the platform to not let the innocent kind of, to kind of bring the innocent's voice that's been long forgotten since '84, and it's been brought to the limelight. And now you got these guys who are getting into these positions where I think a lot of people thought we wouldn't get to these spots, being able to voice ourselves. We'd be just kind of saying it to our neighbors, we'd be saying it in like our little circles. But now we're at a point where we can bring these atrocities to the thing, and I think that's what kind of lets the Indian government kind of kind of lets them shake a little bit. And I think that's where where things kind of get stuck. They get sticky and they get muddy. But it is what it is. I truly believe that is a big part of it.
Yeah. I had just moved back to India, just the year before that when it happened, and I still remember as a little boy being trapped up in all of that, and you as a little boy you question humanity around you when you see that happening around you. And I think it is a big question mark sometimes on how justice is delivered in our system when people are not brought to justice. I don't think you can put everything onto that it was people who just an unplanned, I think the whole thing is it was an unplanned which happened, but
that's the thing. Like even my uncle, I hear stories about it. He was in New Delhi when it happened, and he had a turban and everything. And obviously, what they were doing was they were putting tires around anybody, the whole massacre. And he had to cut his hair. He had to look a different way to not be a target. He had to get rid of anything that kind of resembled that he was a Sikh at that time. And that's kind of how my parents and my uncles and everybody, they kind of escaped India also. And that's where kind of it gets interesting when you're trying to represent India and represent India as a Punjabi Sikh, because you get these views and I've dealt with it since the day I started this and the day that I was trying to build a platform. People were trying to educate me on it and what it is, and I'm fully aware of a lot of things. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's this history has kind of ruined a lot of things. That moment has ruined a lot of things and left a lot of bad taste and a lot of unanswered questions for a lot of people, especially over here in Canada and the States and stuff like that. People think that people in Canada might have escaped it or they have no idea what happened. I feel like people are more pissed off over here. Because when I came to, I was asking people, I was asking cab drivers, I was asking about them, nothing, it's just kind of gone now, right? But here, I feel like people are just still holding that anger. They're holding it. They're holding a lot of things, and I don't know if it's just because of it's a thing to do for some people, or some people truly have an emotional thing to this, where they're truly invested in this. I think there's kind of a fine line between that, where some people are just hearing these things and they're kind of just they think it's a thing to be angry about it, and there's some people that are truly have lost people and have truly been through something and truly want answers, and now they're 2-3 generations down and they still don't know where their grandparents ever disappeared, or someone's husband disappeared, or their son or their mother, and all these things. So it's one of those kind of silenced massacres almost, and now people like Jagmeet and Harjeet, they're bringing it to light. They're not letting it go, and there's a lot of people standing behind it. There's a lot of people that stand behind them to get these answers.
Yeah. Well,
they're not doing it, and the thing is, what I respect is they're not doing it in violent ways. It's not like we're standing there with fire torches trying to torch people's cities and trying to bring violence against other ethnicities and other religions. It's just understand what happened, tell us how it happened, and why are these people not brought to justice, and why are some of them still in power, and why is this happening? That's what I truly think they're after. They're not after anything violent. They're not trying to do anything violent. Look at Harjeet and Jagmeet Singh. They're two amazing, humble people, and they're the perfect voices for this. They're the perfect kind of people to be the face of all this.
Yeah, and I think, and I agree with you that in India, I think the feeling of justice is a little different, because one has seen there's almost inevitable feeling of it, that sometimes you do get justice and sometimes you don't, because we see how the system works sometimes. And I think and I don't know how to say this, but the country has healed, and to a certain extent where it's I think that feeling which is there sometimes abroad of having been wronged against as, you know, certain people. I think the country itself has, I think, moved beyond that, where, you know, Sikhs are, of course, you don't have to say, are they, there's never a discussion, you know, are we Indian or are we not Indian. They are the essence of being Indian, you know, they are the greatest example sometimes of being Indian.
But I feel like they're not credited. Like, I even heard that they're taking like Punjabi out of the schools. They're refusing to. There's certain areas. I was actually just hearing about this the other day. That they're refusing to teach. They're like, they will only teach Hindi. They will only teach, like, they're trying to take the culture out of it. Like, I don't know. They're certain, like, they're doing it in different ways. They may not be killing the Sikhs. They may not be killing, but they're killing them in different ways. They're killing them culturally. They're killing them in the way where they're taking their values in a different way, where they're kind of taking them out of the system. They're taking them slowly in a different way, which is also killing, but nobody knows it's happening until it's too late, right? They're not actually physically hurting anybody, but they're doing things to take it out of the system and take people out of the system. And obviously there's a big problem with Sikhs and stuff, with the whole, like, you know, there's a lot of our youth that are in a lot of trouble in Punjab right now. And, like, you know, you can talk about conspiracies, you can think about a lot of other things, but there's a lot of people that think that the government has involvement with that too. So there's a lot of these things, right?
Yeah.
Like we can talk about hours about this, and there's plenty of debates that I have with friends. There's plenty of people that I have debates with that see me carrying the India flag at times, and there's people that, like, you know, these are things that I'm well aware of. And I'm always open to the alignment of understanding and stuff like that. I don't believe I know everything. I think I'm far from knowing everything. I always try to educate myself, and I sit down actually with a lot of people. Like, even the shirt that I'm wearing is there's this company called Fearhood, and it's a new company that's kind of a cultural clothing line that's kind of teaching people about our past and stuff. So while they're wearing their clothes up, they're actually my official sponsors for this next fight. They're the ones who I kind of sit down with a lot, and we have these discussions, and it's interesting. It's like, you know, it opens your eyes. And we were all together for yesterday for the victory with Jagmeet Singh.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like, it's weird, because when I came to India, it seemed like nobody really cared. But here it seems like it's a big thing. There's even like, there was an art gallery last week all about 84. There was somebody that was, these guys were setting up a visual art gallery where you touch things that you would have felt in 84 and stuff like that, like kind of the visual art. It's a different kind of contemporary art. And so, yeah, it's a very open dialogue out here that's discussed a lot. Like, my wife didn't even know what 84 was until I brought it up to her and kind of started telling her about it. She had no idea what it was. It was never something that was really brought to her attention. We weren't even born at the time. She was born in 88, I'm born in 87, so it was like before our time. But there's certain families that were directly affected by it, but there's certain things I don't know about the partition that she extremely knows about, because her grandma and her grandpa and everybody were affected by that. And on my side, we were also affected by it. It's not something we discuss a lot. 84 is more the thing that's discussed in our household.
Yeah, well, all I can say is I don't think there is, from what I can see sitting in the country, there is any kind of thing to weed out, you know, the Punjabiness. And I don't think even if somebody tried, they could do that. I think, you know, the whole Punjabi culture is so ingrained in our country, it would be impossible. And I think regional languages are still very strong. Of course, the whole talk keeps going on about, you know, how Hindi is being tried to be imposed. But I think the regional languages are very strong, and you can see that even in the cinema. You know, Punjabi cinema is very, very strong, going all over the globe. It's played all over the country, even in Bombay. You know, and it is, you know, a very strong, I would say, indicator, you know, of how healthy the regional scene, whether it's Tamil, Telugu, Bengali, all of these languages are still very strong. And I think it's what makes us all Indian, is this whole mishmash. And I think we all know this. And well, moving on from the Desi in us for a little while, you know, we spoke to you And I agree with you that we can go on and on about this, you know, and there's no ending because there's so many things to talk about in layers. But, you know, we, of course, spoke to you right after the Mayweather-McGregor fight, you know, and you had seen it live. Now, again, McGregor is starting to talk about, oh, you know, the referee was biased and, you know, he took me off him and I think I can beat Floyd again. You know, do you think that is, since you guys share the same management as well, do you think that's kind of because he the first time he lost to Nate, he figured out, okay, this is what I need to do and came back stronger? Do you think it's him thinking, listen, I came back and beat Nate, I can train and figure out, look at the thing, figure out what I need to do to beat Floyd and come back and beat him? Is it that? Or do you think it was like, I made a shitload of fucking money, you know, I can maybe talk myself back into another fight, make another shitload of money, and fuck, I'm done, man. You know, I don't maybe don't even have to come back to fight anything. Do you?
I think it's the second one. Why not get another 100 million out of it and for half a fight?
Yeah.
Boxing another big fight where I don't feel like it's as dangerous. I'm about to become the first to hold an international belt, and I don't even have to be in the UFC. And that's enough. And then I'll head to the UFC maybe and win the belt there. Like, I truly believe I'm capable of that. Like, the guy that I was 8 years ago when I started this, the accountant, I'm just breaking barriers every single day. You gotta remember, the same people are still around that thought I wouldn't even make it off of the local tournament that I had to pay $75 to enter in. I had to pay to be able to fight back in the day and then my amateur days. And people, a lot of people that start following me now think that either I always fought like this, I always looked like this, or I was always in this lifestyle. This lifestyle didn't come to me till I was 22, 23, till I totally obsessed myself into it. And every single one of these camps, I put myself into every part of it. Like, I go into these fights, I go into these training camps with the utmost fear, and I have no problem hiding. I have no problem hiding it because that's what gets me to wake up every morning. I put in that work every single day because I know day by day I'm getting better and better. So when I make that walk, I'm fully confident that I've covered every possible thing. There's not another stone I could have turned to get better in that moment. And I just want to show the best part of myself. And like I said, in this one, I'm representing my grandma. I've always represented my ancestors. I've always been vocal about it. If you see, I always kneel at the front of the gate before I enter because that's where I do our thoughts. I do it right there because I truly... This sport is dangerous. I don't even see it as a sport. A fight is a fight. You can't even call it a sport because anything can happen. We've seen people get killed in there. People have died from head trauma and stuff. When you get in there, it may be that night. You don't know. You have to go in there and not paralyzed by fear, but understand that, listen, you're fighting, you're living your dream, but you're living a very dangerous dream. So when I kneel at that gate, I'm ready to give every part of myself. It's either win or I get killed in there, and that's really my two options. I don't lose, and the only loss I have is from a ref stepping in there with a cut stoppage. So I've never been finished. And that's the reason, because I have the mindset never to be finished. Well, my trophy case, White has the trophy case ready for the belt to be clear. She has a note sitting in it. She wrote the note. She created the case. It's ready. Like, I've already, the day I signed the contract, I already knew the belt was mine. Now I'm just going through the process to get ready for it. And she's standing by me. She's helping me in every possible thing. The crazy thing is, with Brave, in the first fight, she was, we were going out. The second fight, I proposed to her. She's my fiance. This third fight, she's my wife now. Yeah. So I've literally grew in my relationship at the same time I grew with Brave. So it's kind of cool.
Awesome. Well, we wish you all the very best for it, and we will definitely talk to you before the fight and see how your preparation and your training is going, and we know it's going to be top notch. But we look forward to speaking to you again, and everybody out there is going to look forward to speaking to you again as well. Take care, and thank you for talking to us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Take care, buddy. Cheers. Bye.